I'm back working on Commodore stuff. Today we're going to tackle the big project of putting all new caps in this 1084. Of course, I'm not going to bore you with replacing each one on video, but I am going to show you how to get this apart to where you can get to all of them. Because there are 54 different caps in this thing. 55 if you include the big chassis filter, which that unfortunately didn't come in this kit, but I'll probably get one later. I got the kit for the computer and the power supply from Console 5. This one is from arcadepartsandrepair.com. I'll put a link to their website in the description, but this is a really good kit. They have everything broke down on this page, what capacitors are in the kit, which board they go on, and they also list the, they call out the number marked on the circuit board. Like C128 on the board will have 100 microfarad at 25 volts. So you can make sure you've got the right capacitor in the right spot. With 54 of them, there's a chance of getting confused. So, good kit. Let's get this pulled apart so we can start changing capacitors. And gently set it on its face here. And when you're ordering the cap kit, make sure you get the right one, because these 1084s, there's a couple different varieties. This one's made by Philips, so it's the 1084 SP model. They also have one that's a D model made by Daewoo. So make sure they are different cap kits, so make sure you get the right kit. Right now we have a screw here on the bottom, a screw there, one there holding the board there at the back, and then down in these holes there's a Phillips screw in each one of those. We'll take all 5 of those out. Once you get the screws out, you can start sliding the back of the case. Now you'll be able to get it about this far. This connector right here with the 3 big wires goes into this back circuit board. You need to disconnect it because it goes to the speakers that are in the back of the case. Once that's off the back of the case, you can set it out of the way. Now before we go any further, we need to discharge the picture tube, because it acts like a large capacitor, and if you don't discharge it, touch the wrong thing, you can get zapped. So I'm going to take, right down in here, you got your ground wires for the chassis. I'm going to take an alligator clip and hook onto that, so we've got a ground. I'm going to take a screwdriver with an insulated handle, fasten the alligator clip to it. Then what we want to do is raise up the edge of this suction cup and then touch your screwdriver to the wires. And that will discharge the picture tube. So now you can disconnect this connection. Those just hook in each side of that hole, so just push it to the side, disconnect one, and rotate it out. Now we'll get it disconnected from the picture tube. And I should have said this sooner, but of course make sure everything's unplugged. I brought it downstairs, so it was never even plugged in down here, but make sure it's unplugged. Okay, next let's get the power supply board out of there. You've got a connector here. We'll disconnect it. Now I've got the monitor tilted up again. There's a little tab here that locks that power supply board in place. We'll push it and then slide the board toward the rear. That's come loose. We can set it back down. Oh, one other thing. This monitor, I've worked on it before. It used to have a RF shield on the bottom like all of this Commodore stuff. It was just totally encased in metal. I removed that. If I remember right, there was a couple of wires that came through there that soldered onto that board, so you'll have to remove those wires. Like I said, I took the RF shield out, never put it back. Didn't notice any difference in the way it performed. Just a whole lot easier to work on. I think one of these other small circuit boards in there also had an RF shield. And removing the shield is not optional because it's soldered all over the bottom of the board. You have to get to the bottom of the board to be able to take the capacitors out. So you have to take the board off, which is just soldered in places around the board. Just gently pull on it as you melt the solder and it'll come right off. And then it's up to you whether you put it back on or not. Keep pulling the board out. Then you have one 2-prong plug here. Slip it off. And your power supply is free. You can set it aside until you're ready to work on it, because it does have several capacitors on it. I believe this board here was the one that had the shield on the back that I had to take off. Got a small connector here. Pop it off. Gently pull your board off of the back of the picture tube. Slide it back a little further. Just watch all around the board. See what's still hooked up. Now we are down to a grounding wire that runs around the picture tube. And to take it off, you can either desolder the wires here, or there's a spring here, a couple of hooks that hold it in place. Take this screw out here and that wire will come off of around that. Give you more access. All right, now you got access to the board. Capacitors everywhere. I'm on that. There's one down there in the corner of that auxiliary board. Your audio board has a bunch. The audio board it has a couple of tabs there that are bent. You can straighten those out. That board will come out, give you access to some of the capacitors down below. And then it's just a matter of solder and replace. Just make sure you keep track of the values. The voltage values on capacitors. You should never go lower on the voltage, but you can go higher. And I've noticed a lot of these replacements are a higher voltage rating than what's on the board. But make sure your farad rating is right. And they did a really good job. Like I was saying, they've listed all the capacitors in the kit. They've listed where they go, which board they go on. It's just really handy to have this. Wasn't necessary on the computer and the power supply. They were so simple, but with this many capacitors, it's really handy. So now I'm going to get to soldering. We'll see how this turns out. Well, that was a couple hours of fun. Definitely took a bit of time, but nothing real difficult. There was a couple of capacitors on this board here, the audio board. Like I said, you need to pull that out. I've been in those tabs because there's just no way to get to them otherwise. Everything else was pretty easy to get to. I just slid the boards back in, hooked everything up. Looks like I'm ready to put the back cover on and then give it a test run. All right, she's all hooked back up. Let it warm up for a couple of minutes. Let's see what happens. There's no magic smoke coming out the top, so that's a good sign. All right, 128 mode looks good. Still, of course, got the jail bars because that wasn't something this was supposed to fix. Go 64. We got 64 mode looks good. So that's on the composite. So let's see what the RGB looks like on 80 column. All right, had a little jitteriness there on the 80 column mode, but I think it was I didn't have the plug in, or I wiggled the plug a little bit and it straightened right up, so it appears to be a plug issue. So that looks good. So I'm going to call that a success on the recap. Now I also picked up from Tots Retro a diagnostic cartridge for the 128, which I've never had one of them before. So let's run through and see if everything's good on the computer. Okay, we got the cartridge in, all the dongles installed. Let's see what it does. Sweet, everything looks good. The SID sounds good. Well, the monitor recap is a success, but before I finish this video, I wanted to show you a couple of future projects. I have, well, there's two complete 64s there that I've got in. Of course, this one got all beat up in shipping because shipper wrapped one layer of the real tiny bubble wrap around it and then threw it in an oversized box. So it just banged around. I believe that board, I think that board was good. But out of those other two 64s, I haven't tried them at all yet. And then I got this one the other day, came in. Don't know anything about it either. These are all untested. But I'll be checking them out in upcoming videos. And what I wanted is I've been wanting a 64C to go with my 128. And I hadn't been able to find a good deal on one. But what I did find was a beautiful case. This thing came all the way from Budapest. eBay seller on there had it packaged just beautiful. Can't get stuff from 2 states away without it getting destroyed, but this managed to come from the other side of the planet, and the guy did a great job. And that, it looked like I was probably going to either have to retro bright it, or I thought about giving it a custom paint job, but it looks better than the pictures. I don't know if he had more than one case and I just lucked out and got a real good one. But the good thing about this case is it is one of the early ones that's set up for a long board. Most of the 64Cs had the short board. Well, I have 4 long boards, so I should be able to get at least one good long board working, I would hope. So then I can put it in that case and I'll have me a nice 64C. Well, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope it was educational on recapping your monitor. And I'll catch you on the next one.